human and his dog found a dying alien girl. Her story left them in shock. The dense jungle canopy of Planet X-379 stretched endlessly beneath Pitt Johnson's atmospheric entry pod as it pierced through the lavender clouds. Sitting in the pilot's seat, he adjusted his black protective suit's collar while checking the landing coordinates. Next to him, his German Shepherd, Rex, watched the alien landscape with alert eyes, tail wagging with anticipation. "Almost there, boy," Pitt said, running a hand through his dark hair. The stubble on his jaw caught the dim purple light filtering through the cockpit window. Just another routine exploration mission. Though I have to admit, this place looks more interesting than our last assignment. The pod's thrusters kicked in as they approached the landing zone, a relatively clear area surrounded by towering, crystalline mountains that seemed to touch the sky. The vegetation below us was a riot of bioluminescent colors, deep blues, vibrant purples, and ethereal greens that pulsed with alien life. As they touched down, Rex's ears perked up, and he let out a low whine. "What is it, boy?" Pitt checked his tactical display. Nothing unusual showed up on the sensors. Still, he'd learned to trust his dog's instincts over the years. They'd saved his life more than once during his time as a frontier scout. The pod's hatch opened with a soft hiss, letting in the humid alien air. Rex bounded out first, his training keeping him close but allowing him to investigate their surroundings. Pitt followed more cautiously, his hand resting on the pulse pistol at his hip. The jungle around them was alive with strange sounds, chittering creatures and the rustle of vegetation in the warm breeze. The ground beneath his boots was surprisingly solid, covered in a carpet of iridescent moss that seemed to react to his footsteps with gentle pulses of light. "This place is something else," Pitt muttered, taking readings with his wrist scanner. "Atmosphere's breathable, no immediate toxins detected. Gravity's about 0.9 Earth standard, could be worse." Rex's sudden bark cut through his assessment. The dog had moved about 50 meters away, near a massive rock formation that jutted from the jungle floor like an ancient monument. Pitt jogged over, his boots leaving trailing footprints of light in the responsive moss. What he saw made him stop dead in his tracks. Lying unconscious against the rock was one of the most beautiful women he'd ever seen, if you could call her a woman. Her skin was a deep violet, seeming to shimmer slightly in the filtered sunlight. Long, straight black hair cascaded around her shoulders, contrasting sharply with her skin tone. She wore what appeared to be a form-fitting black outfit that might have once been elegant, but was now torn into several places, revealing more of that striking violet skin. Rex was already beside her, gently licking her face. To Pitt's surprise, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open to reveal irises of pure silver. "Easy there," Pitt said softly, kneeling beside her. "You're safe now." He kept his hands where she could see them, aware that first contact situations could go south quickly if handled poorly. The alien woman's eyes focused on him, widening slightly. She tried to speak but only managed a weak cough. Pitt reached for his canteen, offering it to her carefully. "Here, take it slow, it's just water." He watched as she took tentative sips, noting how her movements, though graceful, seemed pained. "I'm Pitt Johnson, and this is Rex. We're from Earth." She lowered the canteen, her silver eyes studying him intently. When she spoke, her voice was melodious, but carried an undertone of exhaustion. "I am Dryada." She winced, pressing a hand to her side. "Thank you for the water." Rex wagged his tail, nudging her hand with his nose. A small smile crossed her face as she scratched behind his ears. "If my dog trusts you, then I can trust you too," Pitt said, returning her smile. "But I have to ask, what are you doing out here alone? This isn't exactly a tourist spot." Dryada's expression darkened. "It's complicated, and perhaps not safe to discuss in the open." She attempted to stand but stumbled, Pitt catching her before she could fall. "Whoa, easy there. You're in no condition to go anywhere on your own." He supported her weight, noting how she felt surprisingly human-like despite her alien appearance. "My pod's not far. Let's get you somewhere safe, and then we can talk about complicated." She nodded gratefully, leaning against him as they made their way back to the pod. Rex trotted alongside them, constantly scanning their surroundings with alert eyes. Inside the pod, Pitt helped Dryada into the co-pilot seat and began running a basic medical scan. Their readings were unusual but showed no immediate life-threatening conditions, just exhaustion and minor injuries. "You're lucky we found you," he said, applying a regenerative patch to a nasty cut on her arm. There aren't many human expeditions out this far. We're mapping potential colony sites for Earth's expansion program. Colony sites? Dryada's silver eyes narrowed slightly. Then you don't know about the Shadowers? The what now? She glanced nervously out the viewport. They're why I'm here. Why I was running. She touched the torn parts of her outfit. They've been systematically destroying or enslaving civilizations in the sector. My people, we tried to resist. Pitt felt a chill run down his spine despite the humid air. And what happened to your people? Dryada's answer was interrupted by a deep, resonating boom that shook the entire pod. Rex growled, hackles rising as he stared out the viewport. Through the purple-tinted sky, massive shapes were descending, dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb the light around them. They found me, Dryada whispered, fear evident in her voice. The Shadowers. They always find me. Pitt's jaw set in a determined line as he powered up the pod's systems. Not this time they won't. He glanced at Rex, then at Dryada. Looks like this routine mission just got a lot more interesting. Pitt guided the pod through the dense lower atmosphere, keeping close to the towering crystal mountains to mask their heat signature. The Shadower ships loomed overhead like dark storm clouds, their presence casting an ominous shadow across the bioluminescent landscape. The Earth Special Forces vessel is about 12 kilometers northeast, Pitt explained, checking his encrypted scanner. If we can reach them without being detected, we might have a chance. Dryada leaned forward in her seat, her silver eyes reflecting the pod's instrument lights. The movement caused her torn outfit to shift, revealing a glimpse of Violet's shoulder. Pitt found himself momentarily distracted before forcing his attention back to piloting. Your military operates this far out, she asked, genuine curiosity in her melodious voice. I thought humans were still confined to their solar system. Officially, we are, Pitt replied with a slight smirk. Unofficially, well, let's just say Earth likes to keep its options open. Rex whined softly from the back, pressing his nose against the viewport as another Shadower ship passed overhead. The dog's instincts had never failed them before, and his unease was palpable. Your companion is remarkably perceptive, Dryada observed, reaching back to scratch Rex's ears. On my world, we had beings similar to your dogs, but they were different, less connected to their humanoid partners. Pitt navigated through a narrow valley, the crystalline walls reflecting their pod's image like a hall of mirrors. Rex is special, been with me through thick and thin, saved my life more times than I can count. And now he's saved mine, Dryada said softly. Her silver eyes met Pitt's, holding his gaze for a moment longer than necessary. As have you. The air in the pod seemed to grow warmer. Pitt cleared his throat, checking their heading. We're not safe yet. The Shadowers are relentless, Dryada finished, and they've been pursuing me across 3 star systems. My people's technology, our genetic makeup, they want it all. She absently touched a pendant at her neck, a strange crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with inner light. What makes your people so special to them? Pitt asked, genuinely curious. He'd encountered many alien species during his frontier scouting, but none quite like her. Dryada's expression became distant. We are compatible with many species. Adaptable. Our genetics can blend with others, creating... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Creating possibilities that some find valuable. And the Shadowers want to control these possibilities. They want to weaponize them, she corrected, her voice hardening. Turn a gift of life into a tool of conquest. The pod sensors beeped, drawing their attention. Pitt frowned at the readings. We've got company, 3 pursuit craft, coming in fast from the south. They're tracking my biosignature, Dryada said, frustration evident in her voice. The pendant helps mask it, but they're getting better at detecting its frequency. Pitt's mind raced through options. The Earth Special Forces ship was still 8 kilometers away, hidden somewhere in the massive crystal formations ahead. They'd never make it at their current speed with 3 pursuit craft on their tail. Hold on, he said, dropping the pod into a steep dive. They plunged into a ravine barely wider than their vessel, crystal walls blurring past on either side. Rex braced himself, showing remarkable composure for a dog in a high-speed chase. Dryada gripped her seat but didn't cry out. Instead, she leaned forward, studying the terrain ahead. There's a cavern network through these mountains. My people used them during the initial invasion. If we can reach them, way ahead of you. Pitt grinned, already adjusting their course. But first, we need to lose our tail. He cut power to the main engines, letting their momentum carry them forward as they dropped even lower. The pursuing craft screamed past overhead, their sensors momentarily confused by the sudden lack of power emissions. Clever, Dryada breathed, admiration clear in her tone. But they'll figure it out soon enough. They don't need to stay confused for long, Pitt replied, powering up the engines again, but rerouting the energy differently. Just long enough for this. He activated the pod's emergency countermeasures, technically classified Earth technology that he wasn't supposed to have. A burst of electromagnetic energy pulsed outward, interacting with the crystal mountains around them. The entire ravine lit up like a Christmas tree, creating dozens of false heat signatures. That should keep them busy, he said, banking hard toward a dark opening in the crystal wall. Now about those caverns. They slipped into the mountain's interior, the pod's lights illuminating a vast network of crystalline tunnels. The walls seemed to sing with their passage, creating haunting harmonies that made Rex's ears twitch. These aren't natural formations, Pitt observed, noting the geometric patterns in the crystal structure. No, Dryada confirmed. They're the remnants of my people's first colony on this world, before the Shadowers came. She touched the crystal wall nearest her, and it pulsed in response. We lived in harmony with the planet's crystal ecology, learning its songs, its rhythms. Pitt glanced at her, noting how the crystal's light played across her violet skin, making her seem almost ethereal. Sounds beautiful. It was, she said, a hint of sadness in her voice. Then, surprising him, she placed her hand over his on the control stick. Her touch was warm, sending an unexpected thrill through him. Thank you, Pitt, for helping a stranger when you had every reason not to. He turned his hand slightly, letting their fingers intertwine. Well, Rex vouched for you, remember? And he's a pretty good judge of character. From the back, Rex gave a soft woof of agreement, making them both laugh. The moment of levity was brief but genuine, a small spark of warmth in their dangerous situation. The Earth ship should be just beyond this mountain range, Pitt said, reluctantly focusing back on their mission. If we can... A massive explosion rocked the cavern ahead of them, sending crystalline shards flying in all directions. Pitt yanked the controls hard, barely avoiding a cascade of falling crystal spears. They found us! Dryada's voice was urgent but controlled. They're using sonic disruptors to collapse the tunnels. Pitt pushed the pod to its limits, weaving through the increasingly unstable cavern system. How? Our trail was covered. The pendant, Dryada touched the crystal at her neck. They must have locked onto its resonance frequency. I should have known. She reached for the clasp, but Pitt caught her wrist. Don't, he said firmly. You said it helps mask your biosignature. Without it, they'll track you even more easily. His eyes met hers. We'll find another way. Another explosion shook the cavern, closer this time. Rex growled, sensing the increasing danger. The pod's sensors were going crazy, showing multiple hostile signatures converging on their position. There, Dryada pointed to a barely visible fissure in the crystal wall ahead. That passage leads to the surface. The crystals there are different, denser. They might shield us long enough to reach your people's ship. Pitt studied the opening. It was narrow, barely large enough for the pod. That's going to be a tight fit. Do you trust me? Dryada asked, her silver eyes intense. Pitt looked at her, then at Rex, who had moved forward to stand between them, tail wagging despite the chaos around them. A smile tugged at his lips. Well, the dog still likes you, so... He gripped the controls tighter. Hold on! The pod burst through the crystal fissure in a shower of glittering shards, emerging into a valley bathed in the planet's ethereal twilight. For a split second, Pitt allowed himself to hope they'd made it, until the valley erupted with weapons fire. Ambush! He shouted, throwing the pod into a barrel roll as energy beams sliced through the space they'd just occupied. Looks like they predicted our exit point. 6 Shadower assault craft materialized from behind holographic camouflage, their angular black forms arranging themselves in an attack pattern. Rex's hackles raised as he sensed the imminent danger, but the German Shepherd remained steady, pressing against Dryada's leg protectively. "They're using a pincer formation," Dryada observed, her silver eyes tracking the enemy movements with military precision. "Standard shadower tactics. They'll try to herd us toward their heavy weapons platform." She pointed to a darker patch of jungle. "There." Pitt nodded, impressed by her tactical awareness. "Then we don't give them what they expect. How good are you with ship systems?" A sly smile crossed Dryada's face. "I was my people's top combat pilot before—" She paused, pain flickering across her features. "Before the fall." "Perfect." Pitt flipped several switches, transferring auxiliary control to her station. "Take the defensive systems. I'll handle flight and weapons." "Rex," he glanced at his dog, "keep her safe." The German shepherd barked once in acknowledgement, and Pitt couldn't help but notice how Dryada's hand unconsciously tangled in Rex's fur, drawing comfort from his presence. The next few minutes were a symphony of coordinated action. Pitt threw the pod into impossible maneuvers, while Dryada masterfully deployed countermeasures and shield harmonics. Her intimate knowledge of crystal technologies proved invaluable as she used the surrounding crystal formations to amplify their defensive capabilities. "A bank left on my mark," she called out, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Her pendant pulsed in rhythm with her movements, seeming to resonate with the crystals around them. "The formation has a weak point. They're not accounting for crystal resonance patterns." Pitt followed her lead without hesitation, threading their pod through a narrow gap between two crystal spires. Behind them, two shadower craft attempted to follow, but miscalculated the resonance field. Their shields failed spectacularly, crystal shards tearing through their hulls. "That's my girl," Pitt exclaimed, then felt heat rise in his cheeks at the unconscious familiarity. But when he glanced at Dryada, she was beaming at him, her violet skin flushed with excitement. "Your human combat instincts are remarkable," she said, admiration clear in her voice. "My people would have calculated probabilities for 3 cycles before attempting such a maneuver." "Sometimes you just have to trust your gut," Pitt replied, executing another tight turn. "Speaking of which," he cut the engines completely, letting their pod drop like a stone. The remaining shadower craft overshot them, and Pitt fired their main weapons directly into their exposed underbellies. 2 more enemies eliminated, but their victory was short-lived. The heavy weapons platform Dryada had spotted earlier opened fire, filling the air with a web of deadly energy beams. At the same time, the final 2 assault craft moved to block their escape routes. "We're boxed in," Pitt growled, searching for options. "Any more tricks up your sleeve?" Dryada's hand went to her pendant, which was now pulsing rapidly. "Perhaps one, but it's dangerous, and—" She bit her lip, looking uncertain for the first time since he'd met her. "It requires trust. Complete trust." Rex whined softly, nudging her hand with his nose. The simple gesture seemed to give her courage. "Your combat skills and my crystal harmonics, if we combine them properly, we might create a feedback loop powerful enough to overload their systems. But our minds would need to be in perfect sync." Her silver eyes locked with his. "We would need to be connected." Pitt understood the unspoken implications. This wasn't just about tactical cooperation. She was suggesting something far more intimate, a melding of minds and instincts that went beyond normal boundaries. Another barrage of enemy fire rocked the pod, making the decision urgent. Pitt looked at Rex, who was watching him with complete confidence, then back at Dryada. "I trusted you when my dog trusted you," he said softly. "That hasn't changed." Dryada moved forward, pressing her pendant between them. Its crystalline surface was warm, pulsing in time with both their heartbeats. As their foreheads touched, Pitt felt an electric tingle race through his body. Then the world exploded into crystal song. Pitt could suddenly feel everything: the crystal mountains singing their ancient harmonies, the shadower ship's discordant presence disrupting those patterns, and most intensely, Dryada's consciousness intertwined with his own. Her thoughts, her memories, her emotions flowed through him like a warm current. He saw flashes of her world before the invasion, crystal cities that sang with life, her people's deep connection to the planet's resonant energies. He felt her pain at watching it all fall, her determination to preserve what remained of her culture's knowledge. And she, in turn, experienced his memories, Earth's relentless spirit, humanity's drive to explore and protect, the unshakable bond between a man and his dog. Her amazement at human adaptability and resilience washed through their shared consciousness. Together, they began to move as one, Pitt's combat instincts merged with Dryada's crystal harmonics knowledge, creating something entirely new. The pod systems responded to their combined will, tapping into the very essence of the crystal mountains around them. "Ready?" he asked, though speaking was almost unnecessary now. "Always," she replied, both aloud and in his mind. They struck like lightning, their pod dancing through the enemy fire in a perfect synchronization with the crystal resonance patterns. Each movement built upon the last, creating a cascading harmony that grew stronger with every passing second. The Shadower ships tried to adjust, but they couldn't match the perfect fusion of human intuition and alien crystal science. Their rigid tactical algorithms couldn't comprehend the fluid, almost artistic way Pitt and Dryada's combined consciousness wielded the natural forces around them. Rex watched it all with canine satisfaction, his tail wagging as if he'd known all along that his two humans would work together this way. The aftermath of their synchronized combat left Pitt and Dryada in a state of heightened awareness of each other. The lingering effects of their mental connection thrummed between them like crystal harmonics, making every shared glance more meaningful, every accidental touch more electric. As their pod approached the coordinates of the Earth Special Forces ship, a massive vessel suddenly emerged from hyperspace directly above them. Its black hull seemed to devour the starlight, casting an ominous shadow over the crystalline landscape. "Supreme Commander Nexus," Dryada whispered, her voice tight with emotion. "The architect of my world's destruction." Before Pitt could respond, the ancient crystal formations around them began to pulse with an otherworldly light. Their pod's instruments went haywire as energy readings spiked off the charts. "The crystals," Dryada gasped, her pendant glowing intensely. "They're responding to our combined resonance patterns from the battle. We've awakened something." The mountain before them split open, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in soft, pulsing light. With their primary systems overwhelmed by the energy surge, Pitt had no choice but to guide their pod into the mysterious opening. They landed in a vast crystalline chamber that seemed to breathe with ancient power. Rex's ears perked up, sensing something beyond human perception. The German shepherd led them confidently through the chamber to a central platform where a massive crystal matrix hung suspended in midair. "This is impossible," Dryada breathed, her silver eyes wide with wonder. "This is the heart of harmony, a mythical technology my people spent generations searching for. It was said to be capable of unifying different species' life energies, creating something greater than the sum of its parts." Pitt felt drawn to the crystal matrix, just as he felt drawn to Dryada. The residual connection between them seemed to grow stronger in the presence of the ancient technology. "Is this why the Shadowers feared your people's compatibility with other species?" he asked, understanding dawning. "They knew this was possible?" "Yes," Dryada confirmed, moving closer to him. "They feared what might happen if different species could truly unite, sharing not just bodies but souls." Her violet skin seemed to glow in the crystal light. "What we experienced during the battle was just a taste of that potential." The chamber rumbled as Supreme Commander Nexus's ship began bombing the mountain, trying to reach them. But within their crystalline sanctuary, the chaos outside felt distant, unimportant compared to the intensity of the moment between them. The crystal light pulsed softly around them, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. Pitt and Dryada found themselves drawn closer together, the lingering effects of their mental connection making every shared look more meaningful. "I've never felt anything like this," Dryada whispered, her silver eyes meeting his. The torn edges of her suit sparkled in the crystal light. "This connection between us, it's more than just the technology." Pitt gently touched her cheek, marveling at how natural it felt. "I know. Ever since that first moment when Rex found you." She leaned into his touch, her violet skin warm beneath his fingers. "Your humanity fascinates me. So different from my people, yet so..." She drew closer, her breath catching. "Perfect." Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, but filled with the building passion of their shared experiences. The crystal chambers seemed to pulse in harmony with their hearts as they came together, the ancient technology responding to their deepening connection. Rex tactfully moved to guard the chamber entrance, giving them privacy as they expressed their growing feelings for each other in the most natural, intimate way possible. Hours later, as they lay together in the gentle, crystal light, Rex keeping watch nearby, Dryada's pendant pulsed with a new rhythm. She gasped, pressing a hand to her abdomen. Pitt, she whispered, wonder in her voice. The heart of harmony. It's done something extraordinary. Our energies have truly merged." Her silver eyes met his, filled with joy and amazement. "I'm carrying our child." Before Pitt could process this revelation, the chamber's crystals began resonating with unprecedented power. The ancient matrix seemed to respond to the new life growing within Dryada, recognizing it as the perfect fusion of human and alien DNA it had waited millennia to help create. Knowledge flooded their still-linked minds. The Heart of Harmony wasn't just a weapon or a tool, it was a gateway designed to help different species reach their full potential together. The Shadowers hadn't feared mere genetic compatibility, they'd feared the emergence of something entirely new, a bridge between species that could unite the galaxy against their dominion. Rex barked sharply, warning them of approaching danger. The chamber shook more violently as the Shadower weapons finally began breaking through. Pitt helped Dryada to her feet, both of them knowing that everything had changed. They weren't just running anymore. They had something far more precious to protect. "The Earth Special Forces ship is still out there," Pitt said, checking his weapons. "And now we have something they can't ignore. Proof that humans and aliens can create something beautiful together, instead of just fighting each other." Dryada's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. "Then let's show the galaxy what humanity and my people can really do together." Rex moved to stand beside them, loyal and ready as ever. The German shepherd had known from the first moment he'd found Dryada that she was special. Now, as the three of them faced the challenges ahead, his instincts had been proven right once again. The chamber's crystals pulsed one final time, downloading their ancient knowledge into Dryada's pendant. They now had the power to activate similar matrices hidden throughout the galaxy, if they could survive long enough to find them. The Earth Special Forces ship, Intrepid, hung in low orbit above the Crystal Mountains, its stealth systems barely managing to mask their presence from Supreme Commander Nexus's flagship. Inside the ship's briefing room, Pitt and Dryada faced a panel of senior officers, with Rex sitting alertly at their feet. Commander Richard Chalmers, the Intrepid's commanding officer, leaned forward in his chair, his weathered face showing a mix of skepticism and fascination. "Let me get this straight. You're telling us that this Heart of Harmony technology could unite different species against the Shadowers?" "More than that," Dryada replied, her hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen, where their child grew. "It's already happening. The union between human and my people's DNA has created something unprecedented." Pitt stepped closer to her, their shoulders touching. The lingering connection between them hummed with shared emotion, making it hard to focus on the military proceedings. Every casual touch sent shivers of awareness through them both. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from the crystal formations," the ship's science officer reported, displaying holographic data. "They're resonating with her." He gestured to Dryada's glowing pendant. Commander Chalmers' eyes narrowed. "And you believe there are resistance forces we could contact? Both human and alien?" "My people weren't the only ones the Shadowers tried to subjugate," Dryada explained. "There are others in hiding, waiting for a chance to fight back. The knowledge within the Heart of Harmony speaks of ancient alliances, connections between species that the Shadowers tried to erase from history." The briefing room's lights flickered as another bombardment from Nexus's ship shook the mountain range below. The Shadowers were still searching for them, methodically destroying every crystal formation they could find. "Sir," Pitt addressed Commander Chalmers, his voice firm, "this is bigger than just one ship or one mission. What Dryada and I discovered, what we created together, it's proof that we're stronger united than divided. The Shadowers fear that more than any weapon." The commander studied them both, his tactical mind clearly weighing options. "And your condition?" he asked Dryada carefully. "You're certain?" Dryada's silver eyes met Pitt's, a smile playing at her lips. "The child grows stronger every hour. I can feel it through the crystal resonance. It's perfect." The intensity of their shared gaze made the room's temperature seem to rise. The connection they'd forged in battle, strengthened through intimacy, and sealed with the Heart of Harmony's blessing, pulsed between them like a living thing. Commander Chalmers cleared his throat, breaking the moment. "Well, I suppose this explains all those unauthorized deep space transmissions we've been detecting. Various species have been mobilizing, haven't they?" "Yes," Dryada confirmed. "They've sensed the change, the awakening of the heart. They're gathering, preparing to strike back against the Shadowers." But they need a symbol of hope, proof that unity is possible. They need us, Pitt added, his hand finding Dryada's. All of us. Rex barked in agreement, making several officers jump. The German Shepherd's unwavering loyalty had started this journey, leading Pitt to trust Dryada when he found her. Now that trust had blossomed into something that could change the galaxy. Commander Chalmers stood, his decision made. Very well. The Intrepid will support this resistance movement, but first we need to get you both to safety. That child you carry might be the key to everything. With respect, sir, Pitt interjected, we can't run, not now. The resistance forces need to see us, to know that humans are willing to fight alongside them. He squeezed Dryada's hand. We've learned that love doesn't recognize species barriers. Neither should alliance. Dryada's pendant pulsed brightly, responding to the passion in his words. The crystal matrices hidden throughout the ship hummed in harmony, recognizing the truth of what they represented. Besides, Dryada added with a sly smile, I'm not exactly delicate. My people's warriors traditionally fought until the day they gave birth. Her silver eyes sparkled with mischief. And I have something they never did, a strong human mate in his loyal companion. The way she said mate sent a wave of heat through Pitt. Their connection flared, filling them both with memories of their passionate encounters, the way their bodies fit together as perfectly as their minds had merged. Commander Chalmers sighed, but there was a hint of admiration in his expression. You realize this is against about 50 different regulations? Sir, Pitt grinned, I think we're well past regulations at this point. The commander nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. Very well. We'll make contact with these resistance forces. But first, he activated a holographic display of the surrounding space. We need to deal with Supreme Commander Nexus. He's not going to just let us fly off to rally the troops. Actually, Dryada's eyes lit up with an idea. I think I know how we can use that to our advantage. The Shadower's greatest weapon has always been fear. Fear of difference, fear of change, fear of unity. She touched her pendant, which pulsed with power. Let's show them what happens when people stop being afraid. Pitt felt her excitement through their bond, along with something else, a fierce pride in what they'd created together, both their child and this moment of revolution. He pulled her close, not caring about military protocol. Ready to shock the galaxy, beautiful? He whispered against her ear. Dryada's response was to kiss him deeply, sending waves of desire and determination through their connection. Rex wagged his tail, apparently approving of their public display of affection. Commander Chalmers cleared his throat again, louder this time. If you two are quite finished, we have a resistance to organize. The Intrepid's crystal matrices hummed with building energy as Pitt and Dryada prepared for their most daring gambit yet. In the ship's resonance chamber, specially modified and amplify the Heart of Harmony's power, they stood together before a massive crystal array, their bodies close, hearts beating in sync. The resistance forces are responding, Commander Chalmers' voice reported through the intercom. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, but Nexus's flagship is moving to intercept. Dryada's silver eyes met Pitt's, filled with determination and something deeper, more primal. Her violet skin seemed to glow with an inner light, enhanced by their child's growing energy signature. The torn edges of her suit had been replaced with a ceremonial crystal-infused garment that accentuated her ethereal beauty. Ready to give them a show they'll never forget? Pitt asked, his hand sliding around her waist. Rex sat alertly nearby, his presence a grounding force amid the swirling energies. Always, she purred, pressing against him. Though I can think of other shows I'd rather give you. Their connection flared hot with shared desire, making the crystals around them pulse in response. Since their first intimate encounter in the Heart of Harmony chamber, their passion had only grown stronger, each touch carrying echoes of their mental and physical union. Focus, you two, Commander Chalmers' voice cut in, though there was amusement in his tone. Save the mating rituals for after we survive this. Pitt grinned, but kept Dryada close as they positioned themselves before the main crystal matrix. Their previous intimate encounters had taught them that physical contact strengthened their ability to channel the heart's power. The fact that such contact sent waves of pleasure through their bond was just a bonus. Resistance fleet holding position, the tactical officer reported. 37 ships from 12 different species. They're waiting for our signal. Dryada's pendant began to pulse faster as she placed her hands on the crystal array. My people believe that true power comes from unity, not division. The Shadowers tried to make us forget that. Her silver eyes blazed. Time to remind the galaxy. Pitt stepped behind her, his chest against her back, hands covering hers on the crystals. Their energies merged instantly, the familiar rush of connection making them both gasp. Rex barked once, sensing the power building around his humans. Through their bond, they could feel everything, the crystalline network spreading throughout the ship, the approaching resistance fleet filled with hopes and fears, and the dark mass of Supreme Commander Nexus's flagship, radiating cold malevolence. "Broadcasting now," Commander Chalmers announced. "Show them what humanity and your people can do together." Pitt and Dryada let their combined energy flow into the crystal network. But this time, instead of battle harmonics, they shared something more intimate, their story. Through the crystal resonance, they broadcast the truth of their union to every ship in the system. The moment Pitt found Dryada in the jungle, Rex's immediate trust, their growing connection through adversity, the passion they discovered in each other, defying species boundaries, the miracle of their child, proof that love could bridge any gap. Their memories and emotions flowed out like a song, carried on waves of crystal energy. They shared the joy of their intimate moments, the wonder of their mental connection, the fierce protectiveness they felt for their unborn child, all while keeping the private details of their physical union sacred. The Resistance fleet responded immediately, their ship's systems harmonizing with the broadcast. Even vessels of completely different designs and origins found themselves singing the same song of unity. "Multiple enemy signatures detected," the tactical officer shouted. "Shadower reinforcements dropping out of hyperspace." But Pitt and Dryada were ready. As Nexus's forces approached, they shifted their broadcast, adding their combat experiences to the symphony. The Resistance fleet moved as one, their different technologies suddenly working in perfect harmony. Through their connection, Pitt felt Dryada's fierce joy at seeing their plan succeed. Her body pressed back against his as they maintained the crystal link, their shared passion adding power to the broadcast. "The Resistance fleet is engaging the enemy," Commander Chalmers reported. "Their ships are dancing? They're moving like you two did in that crystal canyon." Indeed, the various alien vessels were executing perfect coordinated maneuvers, their different weapon systems complementing each other in ways the Shadowers couldn't predict. Unity through diversity, exactly what the enemy feared most. Supreme Commander Nexus's voice boomed across all frequencies. "This abomination will not stand. The species must remain pure, separate, controllable." Dryada's laugh was both beautiful and dangerous. "Still afraid of what you can't control, Nexus? Let us show you what true power looks like." She turned in Pitt's arms, pulling him into a passionate kiss. Their connection exploded with shared emotion, amplified by the crystal network. Throughout the Resistance fleet, crews felt the echo of their bond, not just physical attraction, but deep trust, acceptance, and love that transcended all barriers. Rex howled, adding his voice to their broadcast. The sound of pure loyalty and devotion carried across the crystal harmonics, touching hearts of all species. The Resistance ships pressed their advantage, their coordinated attacks overwhelming the Shadower formations. Supreme Commander Nexus's flagship found itself surrounded, its dark hull crackling with failing energy. "This isn't possible," Nexus raged. "You're just a human male who found a dying alien girl?" Pitt finished for him, holding Dryada close. "Amazing what can happen when you let love lead the way instead of fear." Warning lights flashed throughout the Intrepid as Supreme Commander Nexus's flagship began its self-destruct sequence. The dark vessel's hull pulsed with ominous energy, threatening to take the entire Resistance fleet with it in a final act of defiance. "The blast radius will destroy everything within 3 light minutes," Commander Chalmers reported grimly. "We can't evacuate the fleet in time." Pitt and Dryada shared a knowing look, their bond humming with shared purpose. Rex stood alert beside them, sensing their determination. "We can stop this," Dryada said, her silver eyes gleaming, "but we'll need to board his ship. The self-destruct can only be terminated from the main crystal core." Pitt pulled her close, feeling their unborn child's energy signature pulsing strongly between them. "Together, then, like everything else." Commander Chalmers' voice crackled over the intercom. "I'm dispatching a boarding team." "No time," Pitt interrupted. "Dryada and I can use the crystal network to teleport directly to his ship's core. The Heart of Harmony gave us that knowledge." "And Rex?" Chalmers asked. The German shepherd barked decisively, pressing against their legs. Pitt grinned. "Where we go, he goes. He started this journey with us. He'll help us finish it." Dryada's hands found the crystal matrix, her pendant glowing brilliantly. "My people's legend spoke of this, the ultimate fusion of crystal harmonics. A teleportation network powered by..." She blushed violet. "By love." Pitt stepped behind her, their bodies fitting together perfectly as they had so many times before. Their shared memories of passionate encounters fueled the crystal energy, making it surge with unprecedented power. "Coordinates locked," Dryada breathed, her body trembling against his. "Ready?" Instead of answering, Pitt kissed her neck, sending waves of desire and devotion through their bond. The crystals around them pulsed in response, creating a cocoon of pure energy. In a flash of light, they materialized in the heart of Nexus's flagship. The massive crystal core chamber was a dark mirror of the Heart of Harmony, twisted and corrupted by the Shadower's fear. "Intruders!" Nexus's voice boomed through the chamber. The Supreme Commander himself stepped from the shadows, his form a writhing mass of darkness. "You dare bring your abomination into my sanctum?" Rex growled, positioning himself protectively in front of Dryada. Pitt moved to her side, their hands clasped together. "You never understood, did you?" Dryada challenged. "The crystals weren't meant to divide. They were meant to unite, to create something greater than the sum of its parts." "Like, Pitt added, feeling their child's energy signature growing stronger by the second. Nexus laughed coldly. "A human male and his dog found a dying alien girl. How touching, but your story ends here." The chamber erupted with dark energy as Nexus attacked, but Pitt and Dryada were ready. Their bond, forged through trust and strengthened through intimacy, created a shield of pure crystal harmony. Rex darted forward, his inherent loyalty manifesting as golden energy that disrupted Nexus's shadows. The German shepherd had known from the first moment he'd found Dryada that she would change everything, and now his faith was vindicated. "Impossible," Nexus raged. "You're just, different species. You cannot be this strong." "That's exactly why we are strong," Pitt declared, pulling Dryada into a passionate embrace. Their connection exploded with shared memories. Every touch, every kiss, every moment of unity that had led to this point. The corrupted crystal core began to resonate with their energy. Where Nexus saw abomination, the ancient technology recognized perfection. The ultimate union of different species, creating something entirely new. Their unborn child's energy signature joined the symphony, adding a melody of infinite possibility. The darkness around them began to crack, letting pure crystal light shine through. "No!" Nexus screamed as his form began to dissolve. "The species must remain pure." "Love is pure," Dryada countered, her silver eyes blazing. In all its forms, the chamber filled with blinding light as the corrupted core transformed, purified by the power of their bond. Throughout the flagship, crystal matrices awakened to their true purpose, spreading harmony instead of division. When the light faded, Nexus was gone. The self-destruct sequence had been terminated, transformed into a beacon that broadcast their story across the galaxy. How a human male and his loyal dog had found a dying alien girl, and how that simple act of trust had changed everything. The Resistance fleet cheered as the Shadower forces stood down, their ship's crystal cores resonating with the new harmony. The age of division was over. Hours later, back on the Intrepid, Pitt held Dryada close in their private quarters. Rex dozed contentedly nearby, his mission to protect and unite finally complete. "I never imagined when you found me that day," Dryada murmured, her violet skin glowing with happiness. "That one act of kindness would lead to all this." Pitt kissed her tenderly, feeling their child's strong, steady presence through their bond. "I just trusted my dog's judgment," he teased. "Best decision I ever made." Their laughter mixed with the crystal harmonics, creating a melody of joy that spread throughout the ship. They had found each other, created something beautiful together, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy that love knows no boundaries. As they came together in passionate celebration, their bonds singing with shared pleasure and devotion, both knew that their story, which had begun with a simple act of trust, would inspire generations across the stars. Rex wagged his tail in his sleep, dreaming of the day he'd found the perfect addition to his pack, and how that discovery had led to the greatest adventure of all, love that transcended every barrier.